If you're 60, 70, or even 80 years old and you're not masturbating, I have to tell you something that may shock you. And I say this with all the seriousness and care of a medical professional. You could be putting your long-term health in danger. This isn't a joke, and it's not about being provocative. It's about science, hormones, the aging brain, and the quiet risks that too many people overlook. I'm Dr. James, a physician specializing in men's health and aging. For over 30 years, I've worked with thousands of men just like you. Good men, intelligent, capable, kind, yet unaware of how vital sexual self-connection truly is as we age. What I've seen in my practice goes against what most people expect. Because the truth is, giving up masturbation after 60 isn't just a personal choice. It can become a health hazard. It may feel like you're doing nothing harmful, but silence and neglect in this area can ripple out into every system of the body. And that's exactly why I'm here. Yet because when you understand what's really happening, you'll see how something so simple, so personal, can change everything. And in just a moment, I'll tell you why this one habit could be the key to staying sharp, energized, and emotionally alive well into your 80s. Before we go any further, if you haven't yet followed this channel, now's a good time to do it, so you don't miss important, honest health conversations made specifically for people your age. And if this message speaks to you, just type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 0 so I know how to better serve you next time. Now that you understand why this topic matters more than most people realize, let's begin with the first and perhaps most surprising truth. When you stop masturbating in your later years, your brain begins to suffer in ways you might never expect. Danger 1: declining brain function. As we age, the brain naturally changes, but those changes don't have to mean decline. What most people don't realize is that regular sexual activity, including solo stimulation, plays a powerful role in keeping the brain sharp, focused, and emotionally balanced. When you masturbate, your brain releases a cascade of chemicals. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. These aren't just feel-good hormones. They directly support memory, mood regulation, and cognitive clarity. Without them, the brain can become sluggish. Reaction time slows, motivation drops, and over time, even emotional resilience can weaken. When older adults stop engaging in any form of sexual self-connection, they unknowingly rob their brains of one of the few remaining natural ways to stay stimulated and healthy. Neurologists have found that the areas of the brain activated during sexual pleasure overlap with those responsible for learning, memory, and creativity. That means neglecting your sexual self doesn't just affect how you feel. It may be influencing how well you think, process information, and even how long you stay mentally independent. Some of my patients tell me they feel like a light has gone out over the years. They can't focus like they used to. Their mood feels flat. They don't feel themselves. And when we trace back the timeline, it often begins around the same time they stop taking care of themselves sexually, sometimes from grief, shame, illness, or simply not knowing the benefits. But here's the good news. This isn't permanent. Reintroducing even a small amount of solo sexual activity each week has been shown to improve mental clarity and emotional vitality. It's not magic. It's biology. And it's within your control, no matter your age or relationship status. Now, if that surprises you, what I'm about to share next might be even more unexpected. Because while your brain relies on stimulation, There's another part of your body that may face serious risks if you ignore this one habit. And that part could quietly determine how long you stay strong, masculine, and full of life. If you're still here and this message is striking a chord with you, go ahead and comment the number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's keep going and take a closer look at the next hidden danger you need to know about. Danger 2, lower testosterone and energy levels. Many older men believe that as they age, it's normal for their energy to fade, their drive to weaken, and their strength to slip away. What they often don't realize is that testosterone, the hormone responsible for much of their vitality, isn't just disappearing on its own. In fact, one of the most overlooked contributors to falling testosterone levels is the absence of regular sexual stimulation, particularly masturbation. Contrary to popular belief, frequent masturbation doesn't drain your testosterone. It helps signal your body to keep producing it. When you stop engaging with your own sexuality, your body interprets that inactivity as a kind of retirement from reproduction and intimacy. In response, your natural hormone production slows down, and over time, this can lead to fatigue, low motivation, weight gain, reduced muscle mass, and even symptoms of depression. It becomes a downward spiral. Less desire leads to less action, and less action leads to less hormone activity, leaving many men feeling half alive without knowing why. One patient of mine, Shireen, in his early 70s, came to me feeling exhausted all the time. He wasn't ill. His lab results looked mostly fine, but he told me he hadn't felt sexual in years and had given up on masturbation entirely. After encouraging him to reconnect with himself in that way, alongside some basic health changes, he returned weeks later with brighter eyes, better posture, and, in his words, a new sense of life. His testosterone had risen. So had his confidence. Sexual activity, even when done alone, is more than just a moment of pleasure. It tells your body that you're still alive, still vibrant, and still deserving of energy. The act stimulates the nervous system, promotes circulation, and helps regulate key hormones tied to energy, strength, and focus. So if you've been wondering where your energy has gone, or why you feel older than your years, the answer might not be in another supplement or medication. It might begin with something far more natural and personal. And while low testosterone affects how you feel on the inside, the next risk you're facing affects something even deeper: your long-term physical health, and your odds of avoiding one of the most common diseases in men over 60. Danger 3, higher risk of prostate complications. Among the many health risks men face as they age, prostate issues are some of the most common and the most feared. What most men don't realize is that one of the simplest, most natural ways to support prostate health doesn't come in a pill or a prescription. It comes from regular ejaculation, including through masturbation. Decades of research, including studies from respected institutions like Harvard, have shown a clear link between frequent ejaculation and reduced risk of prostate cancer. One well-known study found that men who ejaculated at least 21 times per month had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those who did so less frequently. And this isn't just true for men in their 30s or 40s. It applies across the lifespan, including men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s. Why is this the case? The prostate is a gland that produces fluid for semen. When that fluid isn't released regularly, it can stagnate. Over time, that stagnation can contribute to inflammation, swelling, discomfort, and eventually more serious problems. Masturbation helps keep the system moving, It supports circulation, reduces congestion, and may help flush out substances that could otherwise build up and increase the risk of cellular changes in the prostate. In my own practice, I've had older patients who were experiencing discomfort, frequent urination, or anxiety about their prostate health. Many had stopped masturbating entirely, thinking it was irrelevant or even harmful at their age. Once we had honest conversations and they resumed a healthy level of sexual activity, solo or otherwise, many of their symptoms eased, and follow-up checkups showed measurable improvements in prostate health markers. The body is designed to move, to flow, to release. And when we ignore those natural rhythms, especially in something as central as the reproductive system, we create blockages, both physical and energetic, that can lead to bigger problems over time. Now, while this kind of internal congestion can impact your physical health, the next danger runs even deeper. Because when you stop connecting with yourself sexually, it's not just your body that begins to shut down. It's your sense of self, your emotions, and the way you feel connected to the world around you. If you're still here and finding these insights valuable, drop a number 1 in the comments to let me know you're tuned in. Now let's keep moving forward and dive into point number 4. Danger 4. Danger 4. Emotional isolation and shutdown. As men grow older, it's easy to focus only on physical health, on blood pressure, cholesterol, joint pain. But there's a quieter struggle that often goes unnoticed: emotional disconnection. And surprisingly, one of the most overlooked causes of that disconnection is the absence of regular sexual self-intimacy. When masturbation is removed from a man's life, especially in his later years, something more than desire fades. Something deeply human begins to dim. Sexuality is not just about arousal or pleasure, it's about identity, presence, and emotional grounding. For many older adults, the loss of a partner, changes in the body, or lingering shame around sexuality causes them to stop touching themselves, stop exploring, and eventually stop feeling. That quiet withdrawal doesn't just stay in the bedroom, it spills into daily life. You become more withdrawn. You smile less. You stop making eye contact. Your sense of touch, of emotion, of connection to yourself and others dulls. And it can happen so gradually you might not even realize it. Over time, this emotional numbness becomes a kind of silent suffering. You're still living, but not truly alive. You might feel lonelier, but not know why. You may lose interest in things that once brought joy, or struggle to express emotion in relationships. And all the while, the absence of one simple intimate act, masturbation, could be playing a much bigger role than you think. I've seen men in their 70s who believed their emotional world had simply closed for good, who thought it was just part of aging. But when they took the first steps toward reconnecting with themselves sexually, they began to feel again. They became more affectionate with their grandchildren. They called old friends. They cried for the first time in years. Not from sadness, but from the shock of feeling something real again. Reclaiming this part of yourself isn't just about pleasure. It's about presence, about being alive in your own skin, even after decades of life. Because when you numb one part of yourself, others soon follow. And if the emotional cost of ignoring this need is profound, what comes next may be even more surprising. Because it's not just your mind or heart that suffers. Your most vital organ, the one that keeps you alive every second of every day, is also at risk. Danger 5. Heart health decline. When most people think about heart health, they imagine diet, exercise, and blood pressure checks. But few ever consider how sexual activity, specifically masturbation, can play a role in supporting cardiovascular function, especially as we age. And yet, the evidence is growing. Regular sexual release, even when done alone, can reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and promote healthy circulation, factors that are directly tied to heart health and longevity. The reason is simple. Sexual stimulation activates the parasympathetic nervous system, helping your body relax. Orgasms, in particular, trigger the release of oxytocin and endorphins, which naturally lower cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. And when cortisol stays elevated, something that happens often in older adults facing loneliness, grief, or chronic stress, it places enormous strain on the heart. Over time, that stress can quietly contribute to heart disease, stroke, and other cardiovascular complications. Beyond that, masturbation encourages healthy blood flow throughout the body. Just as walking or stretching improves circulation in your legs, sexual activity enhances vascular health in the pelvic region, helping maintain elasticity in blood vessels and reducing stiffness that comes with age. For men, this isn't just about maintaining erections. It's about supporting the entire vascular system, including the heart. I've had patients in their 60s and 70s who thought their racing heart, fatigue, and restless nights were just signs of getting old. But once they began incorporating regular, relaxed, pleasure into their routine, often just a couple of times a week, they noticed their sleep improved, their mood stabilized, and their resting heart rate came down. It wasn't a miracle, it was a natural return to balance. So if you've been told that pleasure is a luxury or something to give up as the years go on, I'm here to say the opposite. Pleasure, especially solo, mindful, self-generated pleasure, is a form of medicine, one that costs nothing and gives back in ways no prescription ever could. And if all of this sounds unexpected, what I'm about to share next might truly change the way you think about aging, masculinity, and your own future. Because one of my patients, an 81-year-old man who had all but given up on life, made a small shift that brought him back to himself in a way neither of us expected. This is the truth no one tells you, and once you hear his story, you'll understand why it matters more than ever. 6. The secret to feeling alive again. The secret to feeling alive again at any age. There's something rarely talked about in modern medicine, something that's often overlooked, even by well-meaning doctors. We focus so much on symptoms, prescriptions, and protocols that we forget one of the most powerful indicators of life and well-being: your ability to feel pleasure, to feel desire, to feel connection to your body. That's not a luxury. It's a sign that your internal systems are still alive and engaged. And yes, that includes your sexual self. Even in your 60s, 70s, or beyond. One of the most unforgettable stories from my practice is about a man named Walter. He was 81 years old when he came to see me. Shoulders slumped, voice quiet, and eyes tired. He told me he didn't feel like himself anymore. His days felt long and dull. He was losing interest in everything, even food, music, and conversation. When I gently asked about his intimate life, he waved it off. "I'm past all that," he said. But I saw something in him. No fancy supplements. Instead, I offered a simple challenge. Spend a few quiet moments each week reconnecting with his own body without pressure or shame. At first, he was hesitant, but a few weeks later, He came back to my office with a slight smile. His eyes looked brighter. He stood taller. He told me he had started feeling something again, not just physically, but emotionally. He was sleeping better. He was laughing again. And in his words, I feel like someone flipped the switch back on. Walter's story isn't rare. I've seen it again and again. Reclaiming your relationship with yourself through touch, awareness, and kindness can do more for your health than you might imagine. This isn't about lust or fantasy. It's about presence. It's about life. And now that you've heard his story, there's only one question left to answer. If that kind of change is possible at 81, what might still be possible for you? Because in just a moment, I want to leave you with one final truth, something I believe every man over 60 deserves to hear before it's too late. A final word every man needs to hear. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to thank you, not just for listening, but for being open to a conversation that most people shy away from. This hasn't been about shock or controversy. It's been about truth, about reminding you that your body, your mind, and your emotional life still matter at 60, 70, 80, and beyond. We've talked about how neglecting something as simple and natural as masturbation can quietly affect your brain, your hormones, your prostate, your emotional well-being, and even your heart. These aren't just facts. They're warnings. They're invitations, because each one points to the same powerful idea that you're not done. You are still capable of feeling, of connecting, of living more fully than you might have believed. The world may not say it out loud, but I will. You still have a right to joy, to energy, to touch, to pleasure, and to being fully alive. The men who've come through my office over the years often came in feeling flat, withdrawn, sometimes even broken. They thought their best days were behind them. But once they took that first small step to reconnect with themselves, not with guilt or pressure, but with compassion, they began to change. Their posture changed. Their voices became stronger. Their eyes lit up again. That's what's possible when you stop treating aging like an ending and start treating it like a new beginning. So, wherever you are right now, whether you've quietly given up on this part of your life or you're just unsure what's normal, at your age, I want to leave you with this. You are not too old, too late, or too far gone. You're still here, and there's still time to reclaim the parts of yourself that matter most. Let this message be the permission you didn't know you needed, not from me, but from yourself. Because the truth is, no one can give you your life back, but you can take it. And it might start with nothing more than the courage to reconnect with your own body, one honest moment at a time. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a comment below. Whether it's a 1 to say it helped, or your own story, every voice matters, and your experience could be the spark that helps someone else feel alive again.